According to Abe Lincoln's bodyguard Crook, he said Lincoln had a dream about his own assassination 3 nights in a row before he was killed. Crook told Lincoln not to go on that fateful night, and all Lincoln said was goodbye. Crook before he went to the play. This was very odd as Lincoln always said, good night not goodbye. The last witness to Lincoln's assassination was interviewed on TV in the 1950s. Hearing is the last thing to go after you die. You just might hear the paramedics and firefighters call off CPR. You know, that's actually kinda nice. You know that if ever you have someone dying in your arms, they're hearing you as they die. You know comforting them is working. Unless they have hearing damage, and that sucks. You might know that you are too far gone, and that you will die. Well, if hearing is the last thing to go, your brain probably isn't doing much thinking about anything at that point. God, I think this is the worst one so far. Mount Everest is covered in frozen corpses because removing them is very unsafe and time consuming. They are easily viewed from the climbing routes and some are used as trail markers. What's odd is that although the bodies are prominent, in some cases there is no consensus on their identity. Like over the years 2 different people with a similar description didn't return from their Everest climb. And we know the body is probably one of them, but not sure which. Or is it more creepy that some of the bodies are indeed identified, and somewhere out there is a family who knows full well that their loved one's remains are a landmark on the world's most famous mountain? Turn out green boots. The origins of vampires as we know them. Basically your body has gas buildup when you die. I'm not medically inclined enough to explain why. Basically the gas has to escape somehow, and so it would pass through the vocal cords in the throat. This creates the low moan that makes the body sound as if it was in pain. The people back then had no idea what was happening and random bodies would just start moaning in pain. And thus they believed that the bodies were rising from the dead, and when stabbed, the gas escaped otherwise, thus leading to the belief that the only way to stop a vampire was to stab a dead body in the chest. This also led to a lot of strange burials. That is, the man that was buried in a stone wall to prevent him from rising from the dead. I can't really blame them. I'd be freaked out too if a corpse suddenly started to make sounds. Creepy for some, but I find stuff like that fascinating. There's documentaries on YT talking about it. I highly recommend them. Vampires don't moan. They say blah blah blah. CNN has had a pre-recorded broadcast from the 90s which they will premiere during the end of the world. After getting stung by a cone snail, you don't feel the sting for a little bit. There is no antivenin and it can be lethal. Treatment is basically keeping the victim alive until the venom wears off. Cone snails are pretty freaky. Some of the most deadly ones can kill you in 30 minutes or less after they sting you. Their shells are super pretty too, so any beachcomber should be aware of these creatures and know how to pick up a shell carefully just in case someone might still be inside, till there are killer snails. From Atlas Obscura by Fodder, Thurus, and Morton, Necropants, reader's discretion advised. In Iceland, a long time ago, 17th C, friends followed complex rules to obtain a dead man's skin to turn them into pants. You had to get permission from the dude to use his skin after he kicked the bucket. You would then wait until burial formalities concluded. You would rob the shout of your buddy's grave. You would cut the waist and peel the bottom half of the body off in one perfect flay. You would then steal a coin from a poor widow, preferably your butts. Place the coin in the scrotum of the necropants to attract cosmic specifically more wealth in life, and leave the groin full of coins at all times. Pass that down to your kid. Fun fact, the Museum of Icelandic Sorcery and Witchcraft has a pair on display for all of us sickest to gawk at. Necropants had me laughing, but it was downhill from there. Albert Fish, the serial killer, loved eating poop. I feel like that's the least creepy thing about Albert Fish. Human brains when they dry out smelled like cat piss, that stinky ammonia smell. Worked in an ER for 17 years in CT. Had a gunshot to the head come in and a chunk fell onto my shoe and didn't notice. While driving home was like, WTF, did my cat piss in the car or something? Went to take my shoes off and there was. Hey buddy, I think you stepped in some brain matter. I once knelt next to the interstate looking into a guy's open skull for 45 minutes waiting for an ambulance to show up. I didn't notice a smell. His teeth scattered around my knees were what really stuck with me. I dreamed I was wading through teeth for months. The stonefish, an incredibly venomous fish living in tropical waters mostly off the coast of Australia and parts of us, can cause pain that only escalates with time. Eventually the pain will subside, but even after the barb is removed, patients have reported increasing pain 12+ hours later. Without antivenom or denaturing the venom with excessive heat, the pain builds and builds until the patients request euthanasia. Its spines hold the venom, hidden in its dorsal fins. Aboriginals living around the Great Barrier Reef have corroborees, large gatherings, and will during these gatherings hold reenactments of people being stung by this monster, for what I assume is either amusement, learning, or both. Pigs will eat anything. There are stories of pigs entering farmhouses and eating newborn humans. A black mamba is the fastest snake, which can slither at a speed of 12.5 miles an hour, 20 km/h. They have neurotoxins which are fast-acting. The venom shuts down the nervous system and paralyzes the victim. Its venom is able to kill 10 people and it repeatedly bites. To add on to this, there is an almost 100% kill rate and can kill in 20 minutes. When I went on a safari, the guide had no problem driving by the family of lions, cougars, crazy hippos, everything else we saw. However, when he spotted a black mamba, this incredible fear came over his face. The snake was right in the middle of the dirt road and he wouldn't even drive past it. We were in one of those open Jeep safari things. The guide was so frightened that he just zoomed in reverse and got away so quickly. He said they can jump up in the car and do all kinds of crazy things. I don't know if that's true, but I know that he was genuinely afraid and we got out of that area so fast. If you begin to display symptoms of rabies, you will go crazy and die. There's no cure. Your brain will slowly melt until you're dead. The second you get bitten by anything, you should literally speed to the hospital. Unless you don't notice because you were bitten by a tiny infected bat with tiny teeth. You didn't feel the pinch because it happened while you were asleep in a hammock outside. Make sure to read the bottom. Friends. More than 7,000 people die annually due to the doctor's bad handwriting. That doctor needs to start typing or something. Ridiculous. The reason dogs like squeaky toys is because the squeak reminds them of small animals dying. Sometimes an Amber Alert causes kidnappers to panic and kill the kid immediately. They used real corpses in the 1982 film Poltergeist for the ending pool scene. The actress did not know until after the scene was filmed, not just Poltergeist, but up until the last few decades actual skeletons and bodies were used in Hollywood productions simply because it was cheaper than hiring prop guys to do it. Any old movie you watch, chances are the skeletons are real because you could saunter into any old medical supply store and buy a whole disused skeleton from a university medical department for a reasonable price. Cockroaches have been recorded eating human flesh, both living and dead, as well as fingernails, eyelashes, feet, and hands. The American cockroach and German cockroach are more likely to bite humans than other species. Pretty sure Australian cockroaches do something equally creepy, but as an Australian who plans to sleep at some point in the future, I'm not going to Google it. There are many studies that show they don't like human contact, and will clean themselves rigorously if they touch us. Our skin is very oily and can suffocate the breathing holes in their carapace, so we are the creepy factor cockroaches. Nice. Blobfish in its natural habitat looks like a normal fish, but it lives so deep underwater that it doesn't use a normal gas bladder to keep itself balanced. Instead, it has a spongy skin that is slightly less dense than water, which becomes damaged and bloated when fishermen bring it up too quickly. It's not really the ugliest fish, it has just experienced something worse than one of us being thrown into outer space. Between sea level and space, there's 1 atmospheric pressure of difference. Between sea level and 2,000 feet underwater, their upper limit, there's 60 atmospheres of difference. Holy cow, thanks for the awards. And wow, like 50 people drew a connection to Made in Abyss. Never even heard of it before. But maybe I'll check it out now. OMG, now I feel terrible for them. 3,000 foot deep pulled up by fishers. Who the hell is fishing 3,000 plus feet deep? Now I'm sad for the blobfishes. Imagine being taken 5,000 miles under the ocean, having your skull be crushed by the immense pressure, then being called the ugliest mother effer alive. Space aliens pick up humans and violently yank them into space. Humans explode. Space aliens had to look at their stupid faces. It was once discovered that a fir tree was growing inside a human body. Artyom Sidorkin went to the doctor suspecting something wrong with his lungs. The doctors thought they were dealing with a tumor, but turns out he had inhaled a fir tree seed which had sprouted and had begun growing in his lungs. He also had a watermelon and a gum tree in there. If you stifle a sneeze, there's a chance you can damage organs in your head, including eye blood vessels, rupturing your eardrums, and possibly rupture a brain aneurysm, which means there's a small chance stifling a sneeze can kill you. Better to be the loud A with a sneeze that can be heard around the world than a dead loud A cause someone told you to stifle that sneeze. Ducks become cannibals due to boredom. Of all effing reasons, they can only be stopped by cutting off their mouths. Don't F with ducks. Quackers whack. If you're in a boat directly over the deepest point of the Marianas Trench, and you have a passenger jet cruising at 30,000 feet above you, you are closer to the jet than to the bottom of the ocean.